This episode of Brains on Games will talk about Thrones of Valeria, a trick-taking game where every card has some special ability. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and this episode we're going to talk about Thrones of Valeria, which is a trick-taking game that was sent to me not too long ago by the folks over at Daily Magic Games. Here is the box for Thrones of Valeria. I love the artwork here. This is a game, it's a trick-taking card game, but the conceit here is that it's the game that's played by characters in the world of Valeria, and Daily Magic has a whole bunch of Valeria games. In fact, I think as I'm recording this that there's one up on Kickstarter right now. So there are lots of games, and the characters in the setting of Valeria play this game called Thrones. Now, Thrones of Valeria is a game for between 2 and 6 players. You can play it with kids age 14 and up, although younger kids, if they're familiar with other kinds of trick-taking games like Hearts, might be able to figure this one out. And games take only about half an hour to 45 minutes. Let's take a deeper look at Thrones of Valeria. So Thrones of Valeria is a pretty light game in terms of its complexity. The rules are pretty simple to grasp. I think the hardest part about it is figuring out what all the symbols mean on the cards, but it doesn't take you long before you've got those all memorized. So it's a light game, and what you're trying to do, it's a trick-taking game, but you're not going to win based on the number of tricks. You're trying to earn the most silver after 2 rounds of this game. So here are the little silver coins. They're cardboard, of course, and the gold ones that you can see here on the table represent 5 silver, so you can make change as you go. It is a game where you've got a deck with 5 different suits or houses, according to the game, and they all have, I really like the artwork on these Valeria games, and I think this one is no different from the others. It's a lot of fun. So you've got white and red and purple and yellow and blue, and there are some special cards that are jokers, jesters, or tricksters, or jokers. Basically, what these allow you to do is they can become the most powerful card in the game, but you have to pay silver to use them that way, or if you play them without paying anything, they're worth 0. At the start, before you begin a game of Thrones of Valeria, of course, everybody's going to have their hand dealt out to them. And in a 2-player game, you get dealt 20 cards, and you separate those cards out into a separate hand for each round. So you can be quite strategic in how you're organizing your cards. But once you've got the cards in your hand, you've got this little bag that has these tiles in them. That bag is full of these chunky chips that have a flag in the color of each suit or each house from the game. So you draw those at random and you put those on the board, and this is going to determine the rank or the relative power of each color of card. So the player who has the highest numbered card in the most powerful suit in the game is going to begin by playing a card, any card they want, into the center of the table. Now, like most trick-taking games, all the other players have to follow, one at a time, by playing another card of the same color as the lead card, that first card that the initial first player put into the center of the table. It starts to get fun when you have no cards of that color in your hand, and in that case, you can play any card you want. The winner of the trick, the winner of that round, is going to be the one who's played the highest numbered card in the most powerful house in the game. And then they get the reward or penalty based on the color of the card that they played. So if I manage to win the trick using a white card, I'm going to get 5 silver. But if I used yellow, I'm going to have to pay a silver if I wind up getting stuck winning a suit with a yellow card. So that certainly does make it interesting. That idea that you've got 5 different ranks of cards here. The higher level ones are going to earn you some rewards. If you win with a lower card, you're going to get some penalty. But there's multiple power levels in terms of which suits will be trumping another house in the game, because everything is ranked like this. So if the lead card is a yellow and I play a blue or a red or a white, I'm going to win unless somebody plays a higher card than I did. Now, like I said at the beginning, the Joker would be the most powerful card in the game, but you have to pay silver. And for this one, you have to pay 3 silver in order to play that Jester card or Trickster card, or, they have multiple names depending on whether they're power 1, 2, or 3. That's going to be a powerful one or the least powerful one. If I pay nothing, then it's worth 0. So that can prevent me maybe from having to take a penalty if I win a suit with the wrong color, if I don't have any good colors of cards in my hand. Now, having multiple ranks, having ranks for each suit in a trick-taking game like this is something that definitely makes the game interesting, but there's an additional wrinkle to this one, because I think what really elevates Thrones of Valeria over some other trick-taking games is that every single card you play has some ability, has some impact on the game. So even if I'm not going to be able to win a particular trick, a particular hand in the game, I'm going to be able to do something that affects the game state or earns me some reward. There are cards that allow me to steal silver from other players. There are cards that allow me to draw a card from the draw deck. And that's a good one because you pick up 3 cards, you only keep 1, but you put the others in the deck. But that means 2 other cards that are in the deck that no other player has. So there's so many interesting, I think that the abilities are very interesting, and perhaps the most interesting ones are the cards that allow you to change the rank of the houses, the suits in the game. So there's a card, an assassin card, that allows you to drop one of the houses to the lowest level, and then all the other ones move up. There's a card that allows you, the rogue allows you to switch the locations of 2 cards. There's a card that allows you to lock one of the suits so that it can't be moved. So the ranking of the cards is going to change potentially with every single card that's played. So I might play something that's not going to allow me to win a suit, what I think is a weak card, and then if somebody else drops the lead suit down to the lowest level, now I'm going to be stuck winning that hand. So it's a game that's constantly shifting as each card is played. So there's always something to think about, even if you don't have a card that's going to allow you to win the trick. What are the skills involved when you're playing a game like Thrones of Valeria? Well, like most trick-taking games, any trick-taking games, you're thinking ahead and planning ahead, and you're trying to budget your cards to make sure that you're playing them at the right time. Timing is even more important in Thrones of Valeria than most other trick-taking games that I can think of, because of the way that the game state shifts, the way the ranking of the houses shifts depending on which cards are being played. And you might be losing silver or gaining silver or stealing silver. There's so many things that can happen here. You can't really plan far, far ahead because of those potential changes in the game state, but you do have to budget those cards. You do have to manage your timing of when you play those things in order to wind up winning the most silver at the end. And because the game state is so fluid and continually changing, there's also a fluid reasoning component to this game. Fluid reasoning, or flexible problem solving, is your ability to adjust your approach on the fly. You're going to be using a different strategy based not only on the cards that are in your hand, like with the game of hearts, you're just playing, you're adjusting what cards you would play based on the cards that you have and the cards that you've seen other players play down on the table. But with this one, things change so much. You might start with a hand that's really powerful with a bunch of white cards that are at the very top, the top ranked house, and then have that house get knocked down all the way to the bottom before the hand is finished. So it's a constantly changing game, and you can't rely on the same strategy from hand to hand necessarily. So this is a game that is about timing and hand management. And what are the final thoughts, though, about Thrones of Valeria? Well, I have to say, based on the times that I've played, and only at a 2-player count, unfortunately, I have not been able to play at larger play counts, and you can play a team version of this game, which I am super excited to try. This is probably my favorite trick-taking game, just because of the way the card plays allow you to do something every single turn that you play one. Something interesting is happening, and maybe you're just shooting the other players in the foot. Maybe you're stealing some silver for yourself, but it always keeps you interested and engaged. in a game that's very quick, and it's not going to cause you to sit and analyze the cards in your hand for hours on end. It is a game that you can play in half an hour to 45 minutes, but I've only played at a 2-player count, and I do think that playing with a teammate would make this game super fun. Like when I was in residence, when I was doing my undergraduate degree, and I lived in a dorm with a bunch of other guys, it was Hearts and Cribbage were the games that we played most often. And this does remind me more of Hearts than Crib, but 4-player games of Crib are a lot of fun. So I have very fond memories of playing those team-based card games, and I think that would be a cool way to play this one. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to get 4 people together to try it yet. I love the constantly changing game state. I love the fact that every card play does something and potentially earns you something. And I love the art, and everything about this thing makes it my favorite trick-taking game, and it is a genre of game that I do really like. Now, are there downsides? Well, 2 downsides, I'm going to say. I think it's going to play better at even number of players, so that you're either playing a 2-player game where you're dividing up your hands over 2 rounds, or you're playing in teams of 2 or teams of 3. That, I think, is the best way to play it, because that allows you to be more strategic. You're playing off of another player, and you're not going all the way around the table with these rankings bouncing all around before you get to play your next card. So I do think it's best at even player counts when you can play in teams. The other thing that we found is that the little icons that show you what ability each card has are a little tough to sort out. We found they didn't just automatically, I couldn't just look at it and know what that meant. Now, after playing a few hands, that wasn't a problem. We pretty much had it memorized. But at first, we constantly found ourselves checking these cheat sheets. And thank goodness for the cheat sheets. You've got enough of these for each player to have one. So if I'm teaching someone the game, they don't have to tell me what their cards are in order to figure out what they all do. They just look at the symbol. It's got the name of the card, the rank of the card, and what the symbol means, what that allows the player to do. So they don't have to tell me their cards if I'm teaching them the game. Eventually, like I said, after playing a few hands, it does start to make sense. For example, all the cards, regardless of the color, that have the number 4 are going to allow you to swap the ranks of 2 houses on the board here. So eventually it becomes second nature, but it took a few rounds before that was really the case for us. So probably best at an even player count. Probably you can anticipate it might take you a couple of hands before you really figured out what all those powers do and what it all means. But this is a fantastic game. I had a lot of fun playing it, and thanks so much to the folks at Daily Magic Games for sending this game my way. They sent another game in the box that I'm excited to try, but I haven't played it yet. So thanks again to Daily Magic Games. And if you have any questions or comments about this game or about Brains on Games in general, you can leave them in the comment section below the video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. The previous ones are up there already. Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed, so we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.